Hello, my name is Scott. I'm going to be your YouTube companion here for the next maybe hour or so. What I'm going to be doing on this channel is delving into metal albums. I'm going to be reacting to metal albums. They're going to be long videos. What I'm going to do to try to help you guys out with that is I'm going to put timestamps to my favorite songs in the description and in the comments, so that you guys, if you want to, you can fast forward to some of the songs that I really enjoyed, and probably some of the bigger songs, more well-known songs as well on the albums. But my aim here is to do reactions to albums from metal bands that are not necessarily the most popular bands. I want to hit up a lot of obscure, mid-level, and lesser known artists and give them some promotion and some shine on this channel. So I have to say that I don't make any money off this channel. These videos are heavily edited so as to avoid copyright issues, and I do give my commentary throughout the album reactions. So there's going to be some stopping and starting and some pausing, and I want to apologize for that up front. If you want to listen to the album in its entirety without me giving my feedback or my commentary, the original link to the album in its entirety is going to be in the description. So just go ahead and click that link, and you'll be able to enjoy it without me talking over it. Thank you for stopping by. If you have any suggestions for future album reactions, please put them in the comment section. Please keep the comment section civil, okay? I don't want any personal attacks, no trolling, no shit posting, just no irrelevant or trivial information, please. Put what you want to hear me do in the comment section. I'll see what I can do. These take a long time to do. Yeah, I don't know how many I'm going to be able to get up a week, but, you know, I'm trying this out, and I'm going to see what I can do, what I have time for, and see what sticks. So if you enjoy this video, again, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. That's it for the introduction. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Welcome back, guys. This is Metal Album Reactions. We're gonna spread the wealth a little bit more here. We've done death metal, we've done black metal, we've done doom, we've done industrial, we've done grindcore, we've done death doom, we've done alternative stuff. So we're gonna hit up one more subgenre before we kind of just open the floor to requests and start, you know, just listening to what you guys want to hear, because I know that that's part of why you guys watch these channels, is because you want to see other people react to your favorite music, and I'm the same way. I know how it is. So I want to get to you guys' requests. A guy I know at work, he's a new hire. He's really into progressive metal, like Haken, Between the Buried and Me, Animals as Leaders. He also likes Cynic. He recommended I listen to a few things. One of the things he had me listen to was Nova Collective, which they have an album too. I might get to that eventually as well. That's a super group with members from Haken and Between the Buried and Me, so that's pretty cool. But he spoke pretty highly of this album. The band is called Mammoth, and the album is called Deviations. And just based on the album cover, I can already tell kind of what this is and where this is headed. He's really into jazz as well, like jazz prog metal. So he talked a lot about Exevious, and there were a couple of other bands that he had mentioned that I can't remember right now off the top of my head, but yeah, that's kind of where he's coming from. He really likes the modern progressive metal, and I do too. You know, I hadn't really gone here yet, and I wanted to do an album from this subgenre so that I wouldn't forget, so it wouldn't be excluded. Power metal, I'm going to get to you guys, okay? So relax. We got power metal classic coming down the pike. So don't worry, I'm going to get there. I don't want to forget about that either. But yeah, we're going to jump into Mammoth Deviations. I know very little about this other than what I've been told by this guy that I know at my work. And from what I've read on the internet, everybody seems to be saying that it's very good very quality. Yeah, there's 7 tracks. It came out in 2016. It's 41 minutes long. And it's funny because you can tell Google Music didn't really know what to do with it. They categorized it as rock. Yeah, pretty funny. This is in the same category as, I guess, I don't know, Green Day or Queens of the Stone Age. So, according to Google. I don't want to have a rigid rule about when I'm going to stop. So it'll just depend on the length of the track. There's a lot of variety here in terms of song length. Yeah, we're going to start here. The first track is called Entanglements. Oh shit, man. That's pretty crazy. This is going to be one of the hardest reactions I've ever done. There's so many changes in the music. The music doesn't, like, this is the complete opposite of the Wolves in the Throne Room album reaction I just did, where there were these, 19 or 20-minute songs, and the band would stay on the same riff or the same idea for like a minute and a half or 2 minutes at a time. Like this, the music changes, like, seems like every 5 seconds or every 10 seconds. It's very jazzy, very virtuosic, very interesting. It's just listening to this, your brain is constantly being bombarded with new melodies, new sounds, new textures, and there's a lot of stops and starts in the music, so it's very hard to kind of catch a traditional beat pattern. And there was this crazy, like, late 80s riff in there, like from late 80s metal. Like, I'll back it up so you guys could hear what I'm talking about. It sounded kind of retro, which is insane. It really stuck out in this track because it doesn't really carry the same sound or character as the rest of this track. But I'll see if I can back it up so you guys can hear what I'm talking about. They definitely pulled that out of the annals of heavy metal history. I don't know where they got it from, but that was kind of cool. Yeah, I can tell this is going to be a crazy ride. This is going to be a crazy album. Like I said during the Slug J album reaction, I'm going to do the best I can to kind of give you guys, to put into words what this album is making me feel and what I'm thinking. But yeah, it's hard to kind of analyze music that has this many changes in it and is this kind of all over the place and experimental in a way. Like, it's experimental in the same way that jazz musicians experiment. We're not returning again and again and again to the same sections or the same riffs or the same motifs or themes. We're kind of like a rocket ship and we're just taking off. We're leaving the atmosphere musically. I'm going to finish the rest of this song out. This is going to be hard to edit too. So I like to edit around the changes in the music and cut out sections of the song that get repetitive so that I can, avoid copyright issues but also maintain the integrity of the songs. But it's harder to do when there's a lot of transitions in the music because you don't want to leave any of the sections out. You want to keep everything, but you can't. It just makes it more difficult. But this was a badass song. I mean, I heard stuff in there that sounded like Pliny. I know that they're in the same-ish genre, but yeah, there's stuff in there that sounded like some of his work. Obviously, stuff that sounded like Animals as Leaders, stuff that sounded like The Contortionist, stuff that sounded like Exevius. I mean, it's stuff they were. There's so much in here. I mean, the drummer, he was surprisingly good. There were so many odd time signatures in here and drum patterns. It kind of made your head spin a little bit. And this is definitely for music for people that have already kind of gone down the prog rabbit hole a little bit. I don't know if you could show something like this to metalheads who weren't already familiar with prog, and I don't know how they would receive this because it is pretty intense. But it's also very ethereal, beautiful music, so it's not like it's grating and offensive music. I'm just saying, I don't know if compositionally metalheads from other subgenres, if they would be able to listen to something like this and enjoy it right off the bat without already being kind of, getting their feet wet a little bit in the genre. feel like I'm not an expert on prog or anything, but I have heard enough where I feel like I can appreciate something like this. I'm curious, though, if there are going to be any vocals on this album or if the whole thing's instrumental. Because I actually have really liked instrumental albums in the past. Again, I enjoyed Liminal by Exevious. I like Animals as Leaders. I like Gru Cosmogenesis. I liked that Helix Nebula album. I can't remember what it was called, but it had like a green album cover. So I do like instrumental stuff too. I'm just wondering what this is going to be, if that's where we're headed with this thing. The next song, Obscurements, featuring Ben Luria. A lot of the reviews I read of this album said that this track was one of the best on the album. It's also the longest on the album, so I'm curious to sort of dive into this one. But before I do, I'm going to find out who the hell Ben Luria is. Okay, somebody in the comment section, you'll have to tip me off on who Ben Luria is. I found a musician's profile for a Ben Luria in Los Angeles, California, who's actually, funny enough, he's my age. He says he earned his BA in jazz saxophone performance from Florida State in 2014, and that he's been playing guitar since age 6. So he's definitely got a jazz background, which would make sense for someone like that to be on this album. But he plays saxophone, and that's not unheard of either, especially for jazz, jazzy prog metal to feature saxophone. So yeah, I'm wondering if it's him, but I'm not sure. I didn't find any official, as far as I can tell, he doesn't really have like his own band or like a Wikipedia page about him, so it's hard to kind of track down information about him. But he says he's a freelance musician, so maybe he knows one of the guys in this band and they just asked him to stand in and do some work on this song. So I guess we'll find out. Hopefully one of you guys in the comment section will know. You guys will have to help me out on this. But yeah, this second song is called Obscurements, featuring Ben Luria. Let's go. Okay, some of this is bordering on the slightly ridiculous, I'm not gonna lie. Especially this bass line right here, I'm assuming that's the bass guitar. It just sounds a little bit silly. It seems like the music, because the music has a certain absurdity to it, right? It's so technical, it's so precise, I mean, it's a lot of things, but it's like crack for musicians, right? Is to indulge stuff like this, to hear stuff like this. And it's sort of heading over, when I hear parts like this, I think of some of the silliness and hijinks that I find on some of Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum songs and in other artists in more the avant-garde world. Like, I'll repeat for you guys what I'm talking about, so you'll know I'm not just cracking on the band for no reason. But here, check this out. Then they picked it up, obviously the other instruments came in, but I don't know how to feel about that. I tell you one thing though, man. The guitar passages on this thing, some of them sound like they could have come from Tosin Abasi from Animals as Leaders, man. I feel like I'm listening to some of the stuff that was on Joy of Motion. That's what it sounds like to me. Probably because of the jazz influence, but when I hear some of these licks, it just, like in my mind, I see Tosin. It's really sort of surreal. And the synth lines, God, man, the synth lines in this are gorgeous. They're so beautiful. It feels like my mind is being like opened and blown up, like just over and over and over again. And the way that the synth lines and the guitar melodies, they kind of mirror but play off one another, and they're both happening at the same time. And it's just a cascade of like technical virtuosity and beauty. It's really something to behold. If I look at... That's crazy right there, man. I don't know what to say about this thing, man. Like I said before, I'm gonna probably struggle to really give this thing the breakdown that it deserves. I feel like you should get a prog rock musician to really break this down and to be able to describe in detail what's happening. I'm just a guy, I played a little bit of guitar. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit. I played from about the time I was like 15 up through maybe I was like 23 or something like that. So I know a little bit, but I don't know if I have the knowledge of musical instruments and of the music process and of music theory to be able to properly analyze something like this. You guys will have to just bear with me while I get through this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and let the rest of this song finish out. There's Ben, right? to start with that thing? So, first of all, the end of that track, I should say, I should back up a little bit. We'll say like the last 4 minutes of that song, it seemed like the band had kind of broke into, of course, I'm assuming Ben plays, this is the one playing the saxophone, so he comes in, he starts wailing away on his saxophone. The drums start going freaking crazy, man. Like, that is jazz drumming. That is what, that kind of shit is what I think of when I think of really spectacular jazz drumming, man. This guy was going off. It's like the movie Whiplash. I think that's what it's called, right? You guys seen that movie? It reminds me a lot of that. The guy's just going off. The saxophone was all right. The thing about saxophone is, for me, I don't really like sort of the more upbeat sax that gets played for like the more high energy jazz songs and jazz like sections. I don't know why, I think there's like a certain, like almost like a buzzing or like a squeakiness to the instrument whenever each note gets hit. It kind of just like turns me off a little bit. But I really like it whenever the tempo is slowed way down and you sort of have this, it's, you know, the saxophone comes in, but the notes are elongated, and it's a lot smoother that way, I feel. It sounds a lot better. Hear how smooth that sounds? I just like the feel that provides. Like I said, I'm not really into jazz that deep. These are just my impressions about that instrument in particular. Overall, I mean, the last 2 minutes of this track really took on an entirely different character than the rest of the track, and these last 2 minutes were, to me, incredible, man. I felt like I was being whisked away to like some crazy divine paradise somewhere. Or almost like every good memory that I ever had downloading into my brain or being, you know, flashing before my eyes all at once. I really loved this. And a lot of prog and post-metal bands try to do this kind of shit. But I think I don't know what that's called. Please, one of you guys in the comments, please let me know what that is. What this is called, like compositionally, if it has a name. Were there any drums the last 2 minutes of that song? I don't think so, man. Overall, man, this song was a monster. There were so many things to like about this song. A lot of metalheads don't want any saxophone in their metal. To me, this was barely a metal song. Like, this felt to me just like a jazz song. I thought it was still good, and it's still, you know, there's a lot in here that's just very pleasing to the ear. Overall, I liked it. I've liked the first 2 songs. And the good thing about these two, I want to say, is that there's so much going on in the music, and it changes so much, that it's hard for it to get stuck in your head, like the melodies. It's hard to really embed themselves in there on first listen. And so, you know, you could listen to an album like this and still feel like the next time you hear it that it's going to be brand new and fresh. So, but I'm going to get on to the third track. This is called The Hilarity of Singularity. It is 2 minutes and 56 seconds. It's the shortest track. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It's the second shortest track on the album.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for this news flash.
Oh boy, mayhem.
Ren and Stimpy right there, for any of you out there that remember that show. That track seemed almost like an interlude or intermission. I know a lot of bands will do that. They'll hit you with a couple really long songs and then they'll get you like a 2 or 3 minute song to kind of just like decompress from what just happened. Because I guess their mindset is there's not as much of a musical engagement being demanded on a track like this. This is just like a quick refresher, it's just like a splash of water in your face, pretty much. I have to say though, I don't think there were any guitars used on that whole track. It sounded very, very digital, so I'm curious as to what that was, if that was just computer generated or if it was a keyboard, or maybe they went full electronic on this song. Yeah, I was entertained by that. There was a pretty crazy tempo change. See if I can find it that I wasn't expecting, that caught me off guard around the 2 minute mark. Let's see if I can find it. They're like, we got you. Didn't see that one coming. That was pretty cool. Overall, man, that was neat. Cool. That was Hilarity of Singularity. We're gonna move on to track number 4, The Acclamation of Sedation. Again, these are 2 musicians that I don't know. It says featuring Chase Bryant and Mateus Asato. Wouldn't it be funny if Chase Bryant was like a country singer or something, and that Mammoth had him do a guest vocal on the album? I think he is a country singer. Holy shit. This can't be the same Chase Bryant then. Okay. Chase Bryant, it turns out, is a bassist. I don't know where he's from, if he's got other bands. Mateus Asato is a guitar player. So yeah, so these guys are rock musicians. I guess this guy, he has the same name as a famous country singer. This is The Acclamation of Sedation by Mammoth, track number 4, 6 minutes and 31 seconds, featuring guest musicians Chase Bryant on bass and Mateus Asato on guitar. This is badass. I think this might be my favorite song so far on the album. I love some of the riffs in here, some of the different tempos they're using. That bass solo was sick, man. That reminded me of some of the Spiral Architect stuff from A Skeptic's Universe. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that band, Spiral Architect, but they had one of the best bassists. And they were progressive, they were experimental, they were a little bit avant-garde, and highly underrated. So check them out if you haven't. But their bass player was completely out of control, and that solo reminded me of that guy. So that was really cool. Thought the guitar solo was good. There was a part here earlier in the song that I really loved, that kind of got me nodding my head a little bit, and I'll see if I can capture that for you guys. Oh. Now they probably, because of the way they are and the way these bands are, they probably won't return to that part, which lasted all of like 5 or 6 seconds. They probably won't return to that for the rest of their careers. But it's unfortunate, man, because that's one of the coolest things I've heard on this whole album, you know. And there's a lot of cool shit on this album, but I really liked the way it kind of came in and out and chopped like that back and forth. It just felt like my brain was being rattled around in my skull, you know. I'm gonna go ahead and play the rest of the song. So far, like I said, I think this is my favorite out of everything I've heard so far, and I've heard some good stuff. Maybe Obscurements would be underneath this song so far, and then Entanglements would be a short, or not a distant third, but a close third, and then Hilarity of Singularity under that. So we'll let the rest of this play out. There hasn't been any singing on this whole album. There's no lyrics on the album. I'm assuming it's an instrumental. And then at the very end here, there's snippets of, sounds like a conversation between two people. And this guy said something about, it's really sad, or it's unfortunate that you're sacrificing how perfect it is in your head for the way it actually is. I don't know, man. On albums, I don't really like it when musicians, every now and again, some metal musician, to start off a song or start off a album, they'll have like a audio clip of Alan Watts saying something. Or like I remember there was a Mastodon song, I think it was Mastodon, that had a clip from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest at the beginning of one of their songs. I don't really like shit like that injected into the music. I just think it sounds cheap and lame, and like, just let the music speak for you. Or if you have something to say, hire a vocalist to come in and just have a vocalist. I don't understand why people try to insert little messages in the music that are verbal messages, but it's not within the context of singing or even growling or anything like that. It just seems a little bit... I've never really vibed with that sort of thing. This wasn't that bad. It was like a little 30-second clip at the very end, so I'm not going to complain too much about it. Overall, I thought that song was fantastic. All of the solos were amazing. The synth lines were incredible. Again, the featured musicians on this song did a great job, especially the bass player. They ended up returning. Did you guys hear that? They returned to that section I liked. I didn't think they were going to do it, but they brought it back in a little bit at the very end of the song, so I was happy about that. A lot of modern prog, this band kind of has that ethereal, celestial kind of sound and quality that just makes you feel like, you know, you're literally, all of the density in your body is leaving and you're exiting the planet, like you're just floating upwards. I love that feeling. We are a little over halfway through. We've listened to some pretty good songs so far. The only one that probably wouldn't make my playlist or that I would listen to on a consistent basis would be the third track. The other three I think were really good. Track number 5, Limited Access to the One. We have another short track. So let's see how they go with it. It's kind of, I think that this style of playing lends itself to long compositions, because it sounds almost as if the musicians themselves are in this sort of live jam session and they're just throwing ideas, bouncing ideas off one another and playing, and that shit tends to run long. Okay, so you don't really have whenever you see shorter tracks, you're kind of wondering how they're going to approach it or what it's going to sound like. So I'm interested to see here. This is track 5, A Limited Access to the One. That doesn't even sound like the end, but that's the end of the song. It's building, it's going to flow into the next song. This sounded like the heaviest song on the whole album. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they really dialed up the distortion on this song, and the riffs they were laying down felt more like, you know, traditional prog metal in the classic sense. A lot of this thing has felt almost like a jazz album, but this was the first song that really felt like some of the other things I've gotten used to as far as some of the rhythm guitar that I've gotten used to from different progressive metal. So yeah, it's cool to see that they can go there too. I'd be interested to see I actually don't want them to change just about anything they've already done. I don't think the songs they've already written need to be changed, and I don't think they should start making the rest of the songs sound like this song as far as the guitar sound is concerned. But I would like to see, I'd be interested to see, I should say, if they chose to go in this direction and make it a little bit more metal, you know, what that album would sound like and what it would be like. And if they could really try to establish some really heavy, head-knocking grooves and throw those into the music too. I don't know, I just think that would be an interesting, maybe, experiment for these guys. But you know what, they probably don't want to go in that direction. They probably have no interest in that, so that's just something, it's sort of like a selfish little wish that I have. And maybe their next album, it looks like this came out in 2016, maybe if they release an album this year, it'll be more, the sound, you know, texturally, the guitar sound will be more like it was on this particular song. But like I said, so far, you know, I actually loved that song. I loved 1, 2, and 4, and 5, and 3 I could go without. But so far, very good. I'm gonna get to the 6th track. This is the title track, Deviations. It is the shortest track on the entire album, so that's interesting. Usually bands, sometimes with title tracks, they can kind of try to pack a lot in there and they tend to be a little longer, but this one is the shortest one, so we'll see what's going on with this thing. Very beautiful track. The drums on that track sounded like an electronic beat. They didn't sound like real drums. It sounded like this was an electronic music track with some guitar thrown in there. Very, very different from what they've done so far on the album. Maybe that's why they called it Deviations, I don't know. That was nice. I think that about halfway through, because it started out really kind of, like I said, like I've used the word ethereal like 6 times in this fucking album reaction, but I'm gonna use it again. They started out sort of with this ethereal atmosphere and kind of just like real peaceful, tranquil soundscape, and then got to about here. Yeah, and the entire dimension of the song changed, and I guess I'm a little bit jealous of music producers sometimes, because I wonder how they're able to come up with some of these sounds, like how they make these sounds. Like, you guys listen to this, it doesn't sound like any instrument I've ever heard. Sounds like hundreds of tiny little pieces of paper being thumbed through, like pages of paper. I don't know anything about that world, so I'm a newbie when it comes to that style of music. I would like to know how they make some of those sounds. I mean, we've got jazz stuff happening here, metal happening, we've got electronic music represented on this thing. This is a pretty eclectic album, you know, all said and done. It's a prog album. And if you've been paying attention at all on the contemporary prog scene, you know, you may feel like you know what to expect with an album like this. But, you know, there's enough surprises in here to definitely keep it interesting. So, so far I've enjoyed this whole thing except for track 3. I thought that last track, track 6, Deviations, was cool. Not a metal song, but I think it was still good. I'm going to go ahead and listen to this final track. This is called Unlimited Access to the Nun. So I'm curious as to what they're talking about with that. But it is 7 minutes and 44 seconds, natural for a closing track. They usually tend to run a little long. Yeah, I'm interested to see where this goes. I can bet a few things, though. It's going to sound technical. The drummer's going to be going crazy. There's going to be some guitar solos in there. It's going to sound very jazzy. And the music's probably going to go through a lot of tempo changes. Not just tempo changes, but a lot of like shifts in the music based on what I've heard so far. But I could be wrong. Let's see if I'm right. See how they're taking the same melodic theme and it just keeps evolving and evolving and evolving. They keep having different instruments play it, and it keeps, you know, kind of just changing in how it's being presented, but it's the same basic theme. It's just being played around with. I love that. That reminds me of like some 20th century classical music does the same thing. They call it minimalism in classical music. Composers in that style. I mean, if you watch Two Sticks, my other channel, we reviewed we reacted to a piece of music from that style of classical music, and in that video I said what those composers do is they take the same melodic theme or motif and they just repeat it over and over with variations. If you listen closely to this last, I don't know what, this last minute of this song, that's what they're doing. They're kind of staying true to this one theme, and then it keeps just evolving and evolving, and I think that is so cool. I think this is the first time I've heard a genuine piano like used on this album too, so that was kind of a surprise. I love the heavy riffing again. I just think that, this band, I just feel like they have a lot of potential and a lot to offer this subgenre, the prog genre. I don't know. I think that this is something that people who do enjoy like modern prog, I think they'd be able to get into this album. But I think a lot of people from jazz would like this too. Anybody who plays or likes jazz guitar, I think that there's a good chance they would enjoy this thing. But I'm going to go ahead and play the rest of this song and then give my final thoughts at the end. That was definitely the heaviest song on the album. Maybe they put that at the end as kind of like a teaser to what their next album might be like. This was definitely like tons of amazing solos all over this thing. The music's very dynamic. It's very quick to change. You don't really get complacent or really rest with this music. You're constantly having to kind of keep up with what's going on. So it's very demanding of the listener, or it can be. But it was also very beautiful and could be very transcendent in the way it sounded, and very lofty. And it sounds like some kind of sci-fi space heaven somewhere. Yeah, it's like if Tron made it into the heavenly celestial realms. Overall, I think that prog rock and prog metal and jazz, I think they go really well together, and I think jazz guitar has a chance, or has the potential to sound really good when it's married with metal. I think jazz guitar can sound really cool. I was impressed with this thing. I thought the musicianship was at a really high level. It was interesting. There were a lot of surprises in here. And just overall, I think that this is just as good as the Exevius that I've listened to, and I enjoyed that. Yeah, I'll definitely be watching these guys, watching Mammoth, to see what they come out with in the future. thank you so much. The person that recommended this to me, you know who you are if you've made it this far into the video. Thank you so much for this recommendation. This was really cool, man. Guys, if you liked this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe below. And let me know what albums you would like me to react to in the future. I gotta remind you guys that I'm only gonna upload the videos of the albums that I enjoyed. You're not gonna be seeing negative reviews on this channel. If I don't like it, I'm not gonna take the time to film the entire thing and then edit the entire thing and then render it and upload it. That's too much work for something that I don't like. If you make a request and you don't see it up on the channel, it could be that I listened to it and I didn't like it. So that could be part of it. So don't, waste too much time waiting to see if I'm gonna upload something that you requested, okay? But I do appreciate you guys' recommendations, and I want to see more of them in the comment section. So, guys, this was Mammoth Deviations. You guys have a good morning, a good afternoon, a good evening, and good night. This is Metal Album Reactions, and I'll see you guys next time.